Hello, noble ones, and welcome to Metatron's Academy. So today we're going to answer a question: what are the 5 languages that I will never learn? Because recently I made a video about the opposite. What would be the next languages that I would like to pick up? So we talked about those languages that personally, at a subjective level, I find drawn towards, I find interesting and passionate about, and if I had the time, I would absolutely put the effort in order to gain not just an overall understanding of the language, but actually a decent level, whether it be maybe someone could consider like an upper intermediate, something like between a B1 and B2 sort of effort would be something nice to do. We made that video. But today I would like to talk about the 5 languages that absolutely I would not spend any time learning in any way, shape or form in this life, and why. I don't wish to be offensive to any speaker of these languages, nothing personal, it's just a personal preference. Perhaps you would rather learn Brazilian Portuguese over Italian, or maybe you like Spanish because you think, hey, Spanish, I like it. Italian, yeah, it's nice, but I'm not interested. I'm not going to take offense because it's a personal preference. Perhaps you prefer the sort of advantages that another language can give you. Perhaps you prefer the culture, or maybe you have reasons in your life whereby you chose not to pick up Italian, or even more so Sicilian. I mean, I understand it. You know, who the heck are you speaking it with? While I could be very grateful to people who want to pick up my language, I'm not going to hold it against you if you don't or you're not interested. Likewise, these are the languages. I hope that you can understand where I'm coming from, not trying to attack you. This is a subjective matter, not an objective matter. All right. So at number 5, among the languages that I'm not interested in learning, I'm going to put Dutch. I know that not all Dutch versions or versions of Dutch spoken in Holland or the Netherlands have that very strong guttural for the G. But that's the version that I think of and I imagine. Is that like considered standard? I'm not sure. Is that the one connected to the capital? Well, you'll tell me. But man, I just hate that sound. I hate everything else is nice. It's just that sound. Now, I know, as I said, that I believe some dialects, some regional varieties that do not use that. I'll have to see what the alternative to that is going to be, though, because what are you going to do? Do you pronounce the G? I don't know. Dutch, by the way, it's been introduced to me by the various YouTubers that make videos on how to speak it and whatnot. Yeah, no, at that point, if I'm gonna go from that area, sort of, I might pick up German instead, or I might pick up like I'm completely unrelated, maybe go into the Nordic area. So Dutch, no. At number 4, I'm going to say Czech. So in general, you can see a little bit like the Central European section. Czech is another language that I find interesting and I love that they say ahoy, ahoy, like the pirates. And then another thing, I do know a word, and it's zmrzlina, which is, I believe, ice cream. Man, that is a mouthful, though. I think it's the overabundance of consonant clusters that perhaps make it a little not one that I would want to spend time with. So I'd say I love Prague. I have been to Czech Republic. It is indeed the Paris of the East, as they say, although then again, it is in the center, not the East, but from the point of view of France, I suppose. With that being said, I think Czech is not for me. The dumplings, though, those are great. If you're enjoying this video so far, please take a moment to check out my Patreon page. With as little as a $5 support, you can help us ensure that we can continue to produce high quality and high researched content. And at the same time, you get access to polls, extra videos, unlisted streams, and much more. Thank you so much. All right, at number 3, we're going to go with Polish. Polish is another language. Look, hear me out. I love Polish people, and I think they're fantastic sports. In fact, every Heroes of Might and Magic 3 Facebook group that I'm part of, half of the people are Polish and the other half are alcoholics, which is the same thing. I do love the Polish are good sports, and we can make jokes with them, about them. They freaking laugh. They love it. They're great people. But the language sounds like a massive headache. Maybe because I come from a very melodic language type, Italian, and therefore I think there is something when it comes to the rhythm, and once again, the connection of certain consonants that make it sound like I wouldn't want to deal with it. Like I would rather we speak in English, and you can speak it, and I'd be like, wow, I'm hearing Polish. Cool, but not really for me. I do love Chopin, though, and let's remember that he was Polish. He was not French. He moved to France because Russia freaking invaded, but he was indeed from Poland. All right, and number 2, another language that I wouldn't want to learn, Russian. I'm not interested in Russian. Only at one point in my life, I started getting interested in it simply because as a teenager, I was studying piano. And in fact, my favorite pianist, composer is Rachmaninoff, Russian. And that was the only time when I was like, well, you know what, maybe Russia maybe sounds cool. I kind of like it. That was the only time in Russian as a language. But now, as I've gained experience with all sorts of languages, first and foremost, I think it would be too much effort for the level of interest that I would have. So at this point, I don't think I'd be interested in learning Russian. I don't think I know anything. Maybe there is something also in general with Slavic languages. There's nothing wrong with Slavic languages per se, but once again, they sound a little harsh to me, on my ear at least. So definitely Russian will be language number 2. I don't plan to go to Russia and that's another thing, by the way, obviously, with the war and all that mess. But even if that wasn't the case, I think that's a big thing for me. Whatever language I choose, it has to be from a place that I'm willing to visit and spend some time in, if possible. And if not possible, it would be a language that I would love to be able to interact with native speakers. I don't see that to be a possibility with Russian anytime soon, at least as of now. I don't know any Russians in my life, so I think we're going to keep it as a language I'm not going to look into. All right, language number 1 that I'm not going to spend any time learning is going to be Arabic. I'm sure that there are so many varieties that perhaps the one that I heard and that didn't sound interesting to me, maybe it's because of a regional variety. Maybe that specific version, I'm not even sure which one it would be, maybe that version didn't sound in a way that was pleasing to my ear, and perhaps if I'd heard a different variety from a different nation that speaks Arabic natively but with their own accent, perhaps I would find that interesting. But as of now, Arabic is not a language I'm interested in. I'm sure literary, there is a lot when it comes to the richness that it can offer, but it is what it is. And I think it's also because, again, no offense to Arabic speakers, but it's just one of those things that there are too many other languages, even within the Semitic family. I think I would rather, due to the fact that I'm Christian, I would rather study biblical Hebrew, which I have, by the way, at university. I have studied it for some time, about a year. I would probably resume that over starting from scratch with Arabic. It is what it is. That's just my personal thing. Also because, again, maybe there are some like stories, like what is it, 1000 and a Night, isn't that based on some Arabic lore, perhaps? But it's just one of those things. Not really interested in it, and I don't see myself ever putting the monumental level, because of course all of this doesn't just have to do with personal interests, but it also has to do with, but even if I have a little bit of interest, what is the level of commitment that would require? And unless my interest is higher, or at least matching up the level of commitment required or necessary to pick up a language, then I'm never going to do it. Ideally, they would have to match up, or one, like my interests be higher than the level of time and effort required. So Arabic will be language number 1 that I'm definitely not going to study in my lifetime. But let me know, what about you? Is there any language? What are your 5 languages you would ever study and then you don't see yourself ever really learning? You could learn a word or 2, by the way, here and there. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, hey, how do you guys say thank you? How do you guys say good morning? That's not a problem. I'm not against that in any language. In fact, even freaking Martian at that point. But languages that would require like full-time study, these 5, absolutely not. But let me know what you think in the comments below, and thank you for joining Metatron's Academy.